Mortal wounds in true crime case. The Alabama case that divided a family. The air in Gatlinburg was still that spring morning, the kind of calm that hides storms waiting to come. Tracy and Hunter Graham stood by a creek, smiling for a picture no one else would ever see. It was supposed to be a day of promise. A young couple in casual clothes, exchanging vows in front of flowing water and mountains that had seen too many beginnings like theirs. Tracy would later say it was a happy day. She couldn't know that same happiness would one day turn into fear, and eventually, a tragedy that would leave a man dead and a woman claiming self-defense. At first, they were inseparable, the classic small-town love story. Tracy, a 21-year-old nurse and single mother, met Hunter, a 19-year-old contractor who made her laugh and doted on her little boy. Hunter's mother said it was love at first sight. Tracy thought she'd finally found stability, someone who could handle her strength and match it with his charm. When they eloped in 2004, it was fast, almost impulsive, but in their small circle, that wasn't unusual. They talked about starting a business, a family, a future. And for a while it worked. They opened Graham Construction, with Tracy's name on every document. She even took out an equity loan to fund it. They had their first child together, a little girl named Anna Grace, after 5 miscarriages and too many hospital visits. But behind the smiles, stress began to spread like cracks in concrete. Hunter, by Tracy's account, changed. She noticed the smell first, the faint scent of marijuana that she said followed him home from jobs. Then it was the pills, oxycodone, meth, things she'd only seen in patients before. She confronted him, and he promised to stop. But as the months passed, the promises faded, and something darker began to take hold. According to Tracy, the first time he hit her was in September 2010. She said it was quick, unexpected, a slap during an argument that left more shock than pain. But that moment would replay in her memory for years. From that point on, she said, it got worse. Bruises on her arms, black eyes hidden under makeup, excuses to coworkers that no one really believed. And yet, she didn't leave. If I told anyone, she once whispered to a friend, he said he'd kill me. Her friend didn't know what to say, because in their town, things like that weren't talked about. You prayed. You waited. You hoped he'd change. But by late 2010, Tracy's life had become a silent war zone. She said Hunter would come and go, sometimes loving, sometimes furious, always unpredictable. When she told him she was seeing someone new, he allegedly lost control. That night, Tracy said he tied her legs, raped her, and threw her against a bathtub so hard that she blacked out. When she woke up hours later, he was gone. She was bleeding. She called him. I hope you die, he told her. That call would later echo through every courtroom, every interview, every memory of what came after. When she went to the hospital, police were notified. Hunter was arrested and charged with rape, kidnapping, and domestic violence, charges that his family said were lies, designed to destroy him before their court hearing. But Tracy said she feared the day he'd walk free on bail. She bought a gun, a small silver handgun she kept in her lap when she drove. He said if I ever told anyone, he'd kill me, she repeated to friends over and over. The fear consumed her. By 2012, everything was gone. The business, the marriage, the money. Tracy said Hunter had stopped paying child support and had moved on, even reopening Graham Construction under his name. That's when she made the mistake that changed everything. On the morning of May 15, 2012, she was on her way to a nursing job interview when she passed by a familiar sign, Graham Construction, custom work you can trust. Her heart stopped. She pulled into the lot to take a photo, proof, she said, that he was working and hiding money. In her statement, she recalled what happened next. I was getting ready to take the picture, and when I looked up, he was standing right there, looking straight at me. He walked toward her, flipping her off, she said, taunting her. He was 5 feet away, coming fast. I thought he was going to break my window. She reached for the gun in her lap. 6 shots. 4 hit him. He fell face down on the pavement. I shot him. I just shot him, she sobbed on the 911 call minutes later. But across the creek, 2 men, Hunter's co-workers, saw it differently. They told police that Tracy pulled up, stepped out, and fired before Hunter could even react. One of them said Hunter yelled, "Call the law," just before collapsing. Hunter's mother later said, "She hunted him down." When police arrived, they found Tracy sitting in her car, shaking, the gun still beside her. "He was coming for me," she said quietly, but the witnesses said he was running away. As investigators measured the distance between the first bullet casing and the blood on the ground, exactly 12 feet, the question that would divide families and captivate millions began to take shape. Was it self-defense or murder? The small-town courthouse in Florence, Alabama, had seen its share of ordinary cases, property disputes, DUIs, custody battles. But when Tracy Graham walked through its doors in a light gray blazer, every seat in the gallery was full. Locals whispered her name like an echo of disbelief. That's the nurse who shot her husband. By the time the trial began in August 2013, the story had already split the community clean in half. On one side were those who saw Tracy as a battered woman who finally defended herself. On the other, those who believed she planned the encounter and pulled the trigger on purpose. The state called it premeditated murder. The defense called it survival. Tracy's attorney, James Rutledge, stood before the jury and said, "You will see a woman who lived in fear that turned real the moment she saw her abuser walking toward her. She didn't hunt him down. She reacted." But the prosecutor, David Kent, had a different picture to paint. He held up the crime scene photos, an image of Hunter Graham's work truck, the trail of bullet casings, the blood on the gravel. His voice was steady when he said, "She didn't shoot to protect herself. She shot to end him. And she did it after years of planning." The courtroom fell silent. Evidence and emotion collide. The jury of 12, 9 women and 3 men, watched closely as the state presented its evidence. Each bullet casing was marked, each trajectory mapped. The forensic specialist explained how the first shot hit Hunter's shoulder and the next struck his side while he was turning away. The pattern, he said, was consistent with someone being pursued, not attacking. That detail stuck with the jurors. The prosecution also showed the photo on Tracy's phone, the one she took seconds before the shooting. In it, the construction sign is centered, but in the corner, the faint blur of a man appears. She wasn't scared, Kent argued. She was documenting the moment. The defense countered with a series of medical records and 911 transcripts. In one, a trembling Tracy can be heard saying, "He's coming at me. Please, God, he's coming at me." The emotion in her voice cracked the room. Then came the most pivotal moment, Tracy's testimony. She took the stand slowly, her hands trembling as she adjusted the microphone. When asked why she stopped at the site that day, she said quietly, "I just wanted proof he was working again. He owed support. I never meant to see him." When asked why she fired, she took a deep breath and whispered, "Because I thought he'd kill me. He said he would. He always said he would." As she spoke, her voice broke. "He had this look, the same look he gave me that night. I just reacted. I don't even remember pulling the trigger." Her words drew tears from several jurors. But the prosecutor wasn't moved. During cross-examination, he asked sharply, "If you were so afraid, why didn't you drive away? Why didn't you leave instead of reaching for the gun?" Tracy's reply was soft but cutting. "You can't run from someone who's already inside your head." Witnesses in conflict. The 2 men who worked with Hunter, Ray Dunn and Eric Vaughn, both testified that Hunter didn't approach her aggressively. Dunn recalled hearing Hunter yell, "What are you doing here?" before turning away. Vaughn claimed Tracy got out of the car and started shooting without warning. Under cross-examination, Rutledge asked if they'd heard Hunter make any threats. Vaughn hesitated. "Not that day," he said. "But before, yeah, he said he'd make her pay." That moment shifted the room again. The jurors leaned forward, each face torn between reason and empathy. The tension builds. By day 4, the courtroom had become a battlefield of narratives. Local media called it the marriage that ended twice. Reporters filled the hallway, waiting for quotes. Every evening, TV stations replayed the same footage, Tracy wiping tears, the prosecutor holding the gun in a plastic bag, the judge warning the jury not to be swayed by emotion. But emotion had already taken hold. When Dr. Leslie Horn, a psychologist specializing in domestic trauma, took the stand, she explained how victims of long-term abuse can develop hyperreactivity, a survival instinct that blurs the line between threat and memory. It's not about logic, she said. It's about response. The prosecutor tried to discredit her, saying, "You never treated Mrs. Graham personally, did you?" "No," she replied calmly, "but the patterns are textbook." That testimony gave the defense a pulse again. Closing arguments. On the final day, both sides made their last appeal. The prosecutor's voice cut through the heavy silence. She had options: a car, a phone, and time. Instead, she chose bullets. Then came Rutledge, speaking with a quiet intensity that held the room still. Ask yourselves this: what would you do if the person who promised to love you became the one you feared most? She didn't plan it. She didn't want it. She survived it. Verdict. After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The courtroom rose. The foreman's voice was steady. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Tracy Graham, guilty of manslaughter in the first degree." Gasps filled the room. It wasn't murder, but it wasn't freedom either. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in state prison, the minimum allowed under the charge. Outside, as cameras flashed, Tracy's attorney said softly, "Justice doesn't always mean victory. Sometimes it just means being heard." Hunter's mother wept on the courthouse steps, clutching a framed photo of her son. "She took him from us," she said. "Now she gets to live. That's not justice." Inside her holding cell that night, Tracy wrote her first letter to her children. "Tell them I'm okay. Tell them to remember I loved them. Tell them the truth, even if it's scarier than any story they'll ever hear." The morning after the verdict, the town of Florence, Alabama, woke to headlines that read, "Tracy Graham sentenced, manslaughter verdict ends emotional trial." But for those who knew the couple, or thought they did, the story was far from over. Outside the courthouse, opinions collided like weather fronts. At the corner cafe on Pine Street, people whispered over coffee about how the system failed her. Across town, others swore she got away with murder. The Graham case didn't just end a marriage, it split a community down to its smallest conversations. Hunter's family held a vigil that night at a small church off County Road 8. Dozens of people came, holding candles and framed photos of a smiling man in work boots and a baseball cap. His mother, Charlene, stood at the altar and said through tears, he wasn't perfect, but he didn't deserve to die in the dirt. Meanwhile, Tracy sat in the Lauderdale County Jail, staring at the wall of her cell, replaying every word from the trial. She'd thought the truth would save her. Instead, it had only softened the fall. A town that couldn't move on. Over the next few years, the case became a local legend, the kind that resurfaced every time a new domestic violence bill was debated or a woman called 911 in fear. Reporters called it the Courtroom Divide. Some said the jury had been too sympathetic, letting emotion cloud logic. Others believed Alabama's self-defense laws had failed a woman who genuinely feared for her life. A retired judge put it best in a newspaper interview. This wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about two people destroyed by fear, his anger and her terror. For Hunter's family, closure never came. Charlene visited his grave every Sunday, leaving fresh-cut daisies and a handwritten note folded beneath a small cross. She stopped giving interviews after 2015. "Every time I talk about it," she told a neighbor, "he dies all over again." But for Tracy, life didn't end behind bars. It just changed shape. Letters from behind bars. Inside the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women, Tracy became quiet but purposeful. She volunteered in the prison infirmary, helping nurses care for older inmates. "It's strange," she wrote in one letter to her sister, "but I feel safer here than I did in my own home." Her letters, eventually compiled into a series called The Missing Hours Diaries, painted a picture of reflection, regret, and resilience. In one, she wrote, "I didn't just shoot him that day. I shot every year of fear, every bruise I covered up, every year crazy that made me doubt myself. But when the echo stopped, all that was left was silence, And I can't take that back. Her oldest daughter, Anna Grace, was 12 when Tracy was sentenced. In a TV interview years later, she said quietly, "I don't know who to hate. My mom's in prison. My dad's gone." The truth doesn't make it better, it just makes it heavier. Subscribe for more dark mysteries, true crime documentaries, and real-life suspense stories every day.